Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I am no longer Catholic Dan.
And I'm just good old atheist Brad. We want you to know that if you don't believe in God,
you are not alone. That was much better than we usually do. Good job.
Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science. I would say reason there. But we can talk about that. And unfettered by supernatural beliefs. I think we might get into that today.
Sounds great. Today's topic, philosophical examinations of religious claims.
But first, we want to tell viewers about the show's sponsors.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's in the Old City, starting around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. As Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone is welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
The 4 Ps? Is that 4
The 4 Ps, 5 Ps. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please.
Plan.
Yeah.
If you plan to preach.
6
Ps there.
Alliteration, baby. You're up.
Okay, the Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. I haven't been to any of those. I need to go. The second Sunday, we hold the Skeptics Book Club. On the fourth Sunday, we are mixing it up. Sometimes, with a get-together, we call a reflections meeting. It features a potluck lunch in someone's home. Sometimes we meet to play board games, watch a movie, or similar activities. Now and then, we have a blood drive, too.
Later in the show, we will give you our websites to visit for additional details, including times and location. This is a call-in show. If you'd like to call in and talk to myself or our co-host of the day, Brad, who is a philosopher, we're going to talk all about Brad, please call us at 865-215-2288. Any question, any comment, we're willing to chat. Call us up. But before we get to that, we have one in the news item. Judge orders praying school board members to pay nearly $203,000 in legal fees to an atheist group. Back in February, I posted... Did we work on that earlier? Oh, we did. Back in February... Oh, wait. Judge Jesus G. Bernal had finally ruled that these prayers were unconstitutional and ordered the school board to put an immediate stop to them. What we didn't know then was how much this would cost the district. So I guess what we have here is we have a school district board education meeting. They're praying at the beginning of it, and some atheists brought this to attention, and now they're going to get stuck with a $200,000 bill. For the foregoing reasons, the court grants, in part, plaintiffs' motion for an award of attorney's fees. Plaintiffs are entitled $202,000 in attorney's fees and $546 in costs from the defendants James Nah, Sylvia Orozco, Andrew Cruz, and Irene Hernandez-Blair in their individual representative capacities as members of the Chino Valley Unified School District Board of Education for a total of $202,971.70. The April 4th, 2016 hearing on the motion is vacated. It is so ordered. Yay, atheists! Our guest at this time is my friend Brad. And Brad is here to talk to us about our topic, which would be the philosophical examinations of religious claims. Brad, before we get into this deep, deep topic, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you work, what do you do?
Yeah, okay. I just recently moved back into Knoxville after growing up here, getting my bachelor's at University of Tennessee. I got my master's in philosophy at Ohio State and have been in various places since then. And I consider myself a philosopher. That's what I do. I'm working on a couple of books, and what I'm going to be presenting today is actually my work. I don't think you'll find this reading anywhere, but what I've done, Dan, is taught for many years, since the 80s. When were you born? I bet I've been teaching since before you were born.
A little earlier than that, 1978.
All right. So about that time you were born, I was starting to teach, and I got a lot of experience addressing philosophical topics that involve the nature of God, the nature of mind, soul, spirit, free will versus determinism, the nature of the soul. Those things are deeply philosophical questions which everybody has to think about, I think, whether you're going to choose to be religious or not. So out of those experiences, teaching at various places, I've developed a framework.
Before you get too deep into that, let me ask you, is it because you grew up in Tennessee in this sort of deeply religious community, did that sort of guide you?
My growth.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not raised here, but I was raised in Missouri, which is, part of the Bible Belt as well, basically. But I was indoctrinated as a Catholic.
Yeah.
Did you have the same sort of?
Yeah, I did. I was a Methodist, and it was something that I took very seriously. But when I went to UT, I had several professors that really focused my thinking, Dan, really pushed me to think harder and think harder. And by the time I was 21, 22, I was really having serious doubts, and I was able to explore those doubts openly and honestly and freely with a good friend of mine named Vince, who I hope is watching today. And we went through some of these things together. But since I've been about 22, 23, I've considered myself an atheist, and my beliefs. I was going to say faith, but that's the wrong word. I don't have faith at all, I don't think. But my beliefs have deepened and strengthened, and I've grown a lot. So
would you classify yourself as an atheist?
I'm an atheist, and let me say what I mean by that. To me, in my view, as an atheist, I believe that I believe that there is no God. I believe so. If a theist is a person who believes that there is, I'm a person who believes that there's not. Now, I guess you don't have to say as an atheist that your belief is based on rationality. You could say, somebody whispered it in my ear.
Right. You could come to the same conclusion.
Yeah. But I want to say that really an atheist is somebody who's thought about it. An atheist is somebody who's reflected on it. And I would say, in my case, believes that reason supports my view.
So you're a level 7 Dawkins atheist.
Now I forget where the
7's
numbers.
the bottom.
No, because if you're a philosopher who has lived since Descartes, you have to give up certainty.
Okay.
I don't have certainty in anything, including mathematics. And if you want to go that route over some beverages sometime, I once destroyed a good friend's faith in her certainty, in her belief that mathematics was certain, and mathematics is not certain. And so I don't have it. I'm not a level 7 Dawkins person because I don't think I'm certain of anything.
Right.
And that includes that there's a God.
I'd agree with you. I'd probably put myself at 6.5.
Yeah. It's that there's a Christian type creator has about the same epistemic merit to me as that there's a Zeus, not a Zeus.
Right.
So that's pretty high.
So you're going to talk about a framework and what makes a framework visible to, and I kind of, when you say framework, what I think of is worldview.
Oh man, I'm glad you hit on that term, but I want to introduce you to a new term.
Okay.
New term, Dan, because a worldview, I do want to, what I've got written here in some of my notes, excuse me, I'm a little nervous, I haven't done this. I haven't been on TV since.
Look at me. I'm flexing for the camera.
All right.
That's how nervous I am.
We both go to Golds. We both go to Golds. Who's working out harder? But I'm a little nervous. I haven't been on TV since maybe I was 5 and I was on the Bozo Show.
Oh, really?
Well before you were
we'll
born.
talk about that later.
So, and it was about the same thing.
Really?
This,
Bozo the Clown, tackling those deep philosophical questions?
So what I wrote here is I want to go big and deep. I think sometimes what we do here is talk about the minutia of arguments. Does this argument support our conclusions or not? What I want to do is step back from the arguments for a second and look at a framework, a shared framework for all of us. I want to include religious people because, Dan, as I said, my background is in teaching these deeply philosophical issues that impinge upon religion to students. And so I can't go in to any campus and say, all right, I'm an atheist, this is my view, it'll be on the test,
right,
that it's true, and here's the arguments that support my position, sir, children, and end of the story. I can't do that, I don't want to do that. I do not proselytize in class, I will never proselytize in class, but I do think that what we know is that with philosophical issues, the position I'm going to lay out as the naturalist position is historically, deeply, richly significant.
Okay.
And that I cannot discuss any philosophical issue without at least laying out that naturalistic position in the nature of mind, free will determinism, nature and existence of God, all those things. The naturalist position is very formidable.
Is it safe to say that what we're about to get from you would be what we would hear if we were taking your class first day? Something similar to that?
Like it's what you're going to get throughout the whole thing.
An overview.
Yeah, I don't really give them an overview. I would be doing this in great detail pretty much throughout the semester. And then what I'm going to do is then when we get to the free will issue, I'm going to show them how it fits into the framework.
I have a lot of questions about free will, so.
Got it. And you had said that to me, and I hope I can come back. That's not one of the issues I really carry around in the front of my cranium. In great detail, but I would love to come back and talk about that issue in great detail. That's where I think we get into the minutia of arguments about free will. Today I want to step back, and then I hope to be able to show you how some of these issues like free will and determinism, nature of mind, fit into my framework, and that the framework makes sense of them. A framework, Dan, should never decide the issues. So when I'm presenting this framework, if the framework that I'm about to present made it look like atheism was true, there's something wrong with my framework. If it made it look like Christianity was the right option, there would be something wrong with it. A framework ought to elucidate. And I'm going to show you with some examples as we get through this how my framework can elucidate these issues. But I want to introduce a few terms first.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Here's some basic philosophical terms, and I'm going to go over them pretty quickly. The first one I want to talk about, some basic definitions, is metaphysics.
Metaphysics. If I was to guess, I would say that would be...
You just looked at the screen.
All right, I did.
Go ahead, Dick.
Would it be the study of the ultimate nature of reality?
Wow, you're good.
Yes.
You're good. Yeah, look, when I do this in class, I say the study of the ultimate nature of reality. And at the end of that, there should always be a ooh, the ultimate nature of reality. So let me just ask one question. Look, physics gets at reality, right?
Right.
Great. Chemistry, biology, we're getting at reality. Sometimes people say physics is more basic, gets at but what I want to ask is, does physics get at the ultimate level of reality? Well, historically, physicists haven't said that it did. Niels Bohr would have never said that it did. There were more basic levels of reality than physics. I think that was the main view until about 1950. Einstein was kind of a proponent of the view that there's physics and pretty much nothing else. But so even scientists can believe that physics is great, it gets at reality, but there might be an ultimate nature underlying it, and that's when we get into metaphysics. Metaphysics means, from the structure of the word, beyond physics, under the physics.
Okay. What's
lying under there? And so that is a little spooky.
Beyond physics is metaphysics.
Beyond physics.
Okay.
So the question would be, is there something beyond physics? And one metaphysical option might be, no.
I think that's where I'm
Once you get to the physics, okay, I will disabuse you of that later.
Okay.
But no, it's a fine option. And a lot of smart people take that option. That once you get to the physics, that's it. My metaphysics is, it's just the physics, okay?
Okay.
Now, another option is, no, there's deeper levels of reality. Physics can't get at God or spiritual things or so there might be some underlying reality. And many physicists, especially British and German physicists in the 19th century, really took the view that underlying what seemed to be physical stuff was a level of ideal stuff, ideas, a level of non-physical reality that physics couldn't get at.
Would you say it's almost like looking at the code of the Matrix?
I think if you want to get into the Matrix, we're just lost here, Dan.
I'm trying
to... Everything is like the Matrix, Dan.
I'm saying of like the underlying code that we can't see.
Absolutely. And the point I want to make here is that it was physicists who were saying that.
Okay.
And even many great physicists today say that, although it's not the predominant view anymore.
All right.
Okay. What's the predominant view? So metaphysics. So let me give you just an example of some of the questions we would ask in metaphysics. Is there a God? Right? Is there a soul? Is there a mind? And then once we ask the questions about existence, and the particular word that covers the questions of existence, what exists in the universe is ontology. And then that's a branch of metaphysics that studies existence. But then, if we did determine that there was a God, Dan, then our next question would be, what's its nature? If we did determine that there is mind, then our question would be, what's its nature? What's it like, right? So those are still metaphysical questions.
Okay.
Free will and determinism, perfectly metaphysical question. Is there free will in the universe, or is it determined? And like I say, I hope we can get into that question sometime. But you see the issue. It's metaphysical. Now I want to contrast that with another perfectly good branch of philosophy. It ain't science, but it's a perfectly good branch of philosophy called epistemology.
Okay. Okay.
So if we could see the epistemology slide.
Sam. Now, when you say epistemology,
Yes.
I think a lot of people probably think religion.
No. Let me disabuse you of that.
Okay.
Epistemology comes from the Greek stem word episteme, which means something like knowledge. I don't know ancient Greek, but it comes from that root.
Okay.
That means something like knowledge. So I want to define epistemology as the study of knowledge and related concepts such as justification, evidence, belief, and reason. So, so when we're asking the basic question, what is knowledge? Do we have any of it? And how do we get it? If we do have some of it, how do we get it? Though you don't go to a science class to find that out. Well, let me tell you about knowledge.
What do you mean?
Where would you
You're
go?
saying
Where would
the
you go?
study of knowledge.
The study of knowledge
okay.
itself as a
Not knowledge of science, the study of knowledge.
of what? So here's
Free.
Yes. Here's a claim that some people make. Science is the only way to true knowledge of the universe, right? So somebody might make that claim. We could discuss that, but I'm not sure I would
You're
go there.
saying doing scientific
But
things.
are you going to go in a science class to answer that?
Right, no.
No, you're gonna. Let's go to biology class and see what they can tell us about whether science knows everything.
I see.
No, but once you know some science and you start reflecting on these things, oh boy, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. Is there other kinds of knowledge? And what we're going to see is in thinking about the relationship between various atheistic, agnostic, non-belief positions, and on the one hand, and various religious positions on the other. My framework's going to elucidate a lot of that.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got metaphysics and epistemology, two of the big branches of philosophy. The third one is called value theory, and that includes ethics. Boy, important thing. You don't go into science class to. I mean, you might talk about ethics in a physics class. Should we drop the bomb? Should we develop the bomb? You might talk about ethics, but my point is that once you're talking about it, even if you're in a physics class, you're not doing physics anymore. You've stepped aside to ask some other important questions, and those are philosophical. So value theory is the study of values. And ethical values, how should I treat you? Should I could lie to you right now.
Right.
You know? But why should I do that? When we think about those reasons why we should behave in certain ways and not others, we're getting into philosophical, we're getting into questions about values.
Okay.
And so values, ethics is about values between people and I think animals. We're going to want to...
So we have metaphysics, epistemology, and value theory.
Yep.
Those are our three that make up the framework.
Yeah, we could quibble about whether there's a couple more. I really think this is it. But we do want to include in value theory aesthetics, which is values about art. Hey man, you like the Grateful Dead? I can't stand them. Is there any sense of, so
Look at me. What do you think about it? What do you think about
that's just I think you do.
Probably.
So we might have a disagreement about that. But then if I ask you, do you really think that there's some way, Dan, that they're ultimately good or better than a band that I like?
Yeah.
Right? Now we're talking about, is there objectivity or is it all just subjective? Maybe it's all just like whether you like chocolate ice cream and I like vanilla, right? Maybe it's more like that question. And so, but we're into philosophy. We're into aesthetics. We're talking about values about art, music, literature, those kinds of things.
Okay.
So if we've got those three branches of philosophy, now here's what I want to say in my framework. Here's where we get to the framework. We carry around these worldviews, and here's the new term I told you I was going to introduce, Weltanschauung. It's a German word, and I hope I've spelled it wrong. I think that's right. Always look that word up, Dan, before
You know
you
what?
spell it.
That's my last name.
Is it?
Dengnier.
Okay.
It's very close.
Okay. Okay. It pretty much just means something like worldview. It's one of those things that sometimes Germans will say is untranslatable, but I'm going to translate it. I want to use the term Weltanschauung, and what I think it means is something like a really comprehensive worldview. It includes your theory of pretty much everything, or how to generate that theory on the fly, right? What do I do? Should I lie to Dan right now? You know, I don't really have to make up my mind on that. I got a theory of ethics that tells me, no, it's not what I should do.
Right.
And I want to say that comes from this comprehensive worldview that I carry around. So every Weltanschauung is composed of a metaphysics, an epistemology, and a value theory. Okay. Pretty darn comprehensive. It tells you pretty much everything. Now, you might notice that that's pretty much what a religion does as well.
But why do you need a different word when you have worldview?
Well, worldview, I tell my students that worldview really has that sense of being comprehensive. You know, it covers everything. My worldview could just be, you know, everything sucks.
Right.
That's not comprehensive, but it might be my worldview.
I got you.
Right?
I see.
So Weltanschauung,
a more philosophical version of
it just gets us focused. And I'll slip back into talking about worldviews, but I really mean this comprehensive sense of having a metaphysics, of an epistemology, and a value theory. Now, there are religious worldviews, and I'm going to talk about some, because I'm going to lay out the three major worldviews that every single one of you out there have a choice to have. Okay?
Let's hear them.
All right? So the first one...
We're going to tease that because we want you to call and ask Brad a question, because this guy's got some knowledge. 865-215-2288, and he also has knowledge about knowledge, what we just learned about.
Yes. And by the way, Dan, I want to emphasize this again. If you're sitting out there, you know, and you're a Christian and you're expecting to hear something that really riles you, well, I hope we can do that. But I also want to say that once you make a choice to be a Christian, or a Buddhist, or an Islam, or a Muslim, or a Jew, or whatever you choose to, whatever religious view you choose to take, you still have deep choices. And those choices involve, well, two different frameworks that I'm going to lay out. You still have big choices to make. So what I'm saying is valuable to my Christian students and my Christian listeners and my Muslim listeners as to anyone else. The framework is neutral.
I totally understand the concept now.
All right. Now,
here we go.
Yep. So what I want to say, let's define the first framework. I actually, since we're I'm pretty low key here. I do this on the board when I'm in class. I was hoping we'd have a board. I turned that off. I swear I turned that off.
So we have an egg shape, and we have three sections to the egg shape.
Yeah.
Now you're going to tell us what, we're not going to probably be able to see this, but.
So up in the top of the egg is your place for metaphysics. This is a worldview. I'm going to define the naturalist one first. It's been an important one historically. An epistemology, that's my E, and a value theory. And our naturalistic worldview, that comes for many of us out of the decision to be an atheist.
I'd agree with that.
But
I would say, as I was reading your stuff, I would consider myself more naturalist.
Yeah, so up here in the metaphysics, typically, a naturalist has no God, no soul, no immaterial mind, no free will. Okay?
I would agree to all those.
Now, but I think it starts from an epistemology. And this epistemology became very famous with a philosopher named Spinoza in the mid-1600s. But by the 1700s, the French radical Enlightenment philosophers, the philosophes they were sometimes called, really glorified this idea, follow reason. That's what we want to do, right?
Absolutely.
And Dan, take me hypothetically now, but if your reason really led you to belief in a God, by George, you'd change your mind, wouldn't you?
I would.
You would. I would too. So the most important principle, much more important than my atheism, is my idea of follow reason. So my life, my work, Dan, is devoted to what the heck does that require? And how do we do that? So you see why it's an epistemology.
Right.
Tells you what to do. Tells you. And so I want to say that a naturalist is simply a person who believes that when you follow reason, it supports these no's.
It leads to the answer that there is no God, no soul, no material. Yeah.
And so down here we have value theory. And you know, back in the day, before the 20th century, and I think the mid-20th century, Dan, there were people like Dostoevsky, really smart guy. He was no dummy, right?
No.
But he said, if there is no God, everything is permitted. In other words, man, if you're gonna reject God, you're giving up. You're throwing out the baby, the bathwater, everything, man. All right? We know that's not true.
I was going to say, all right.
So in the 20th century, we realized, I think people had realized it before, but it became very prominent, that what it means to follow reason, you can follow reason and get to a humanist ethics, right? Now, I actually think the philosophical interplay between the epistemology and the value theory is deeply complicated and worth exploring. But basically, we believe that I can figure out why I shouldn't hit you right now. And it doesn't just involve the fact that you would probably lay me out in no time flat, right? It's just ethically wrong for me to do that.
Right, but you didn't need to get there from a God perspective. You got there
Absolutely.
from a reason perspective.
So all I want to say, this is a framework. This is in my framework, this is one of the choices.
Okay.
And this choice has become very, very popular since about 1950.
And is humanism the same as utilitarianism?
I want to say that utilitarianism is a way of being humanist. I would love to come back and talk about this sometime. I was a student of, you know the philosopher Peter Singer?
No.
Okay. The philosopher Peter Singer, who's a famous utilitarian at Princeton. Anyway, we both studied with the same famous utilitarian, and so I consider myself a utilitarian, in that I believe what we should do, Dan, ultimately, it's very complicated, of course, and we have to work out all of these ideas. But basically, I think that what it means for me to do the right thing is to do the thing that leads to the greatest good for the greatest number. That was Mill's. That's what I would touch up if we had a whole, year to talk about this. But the basic idea is, the reason I don't lie to you is because, you could get hurt from that.
Because you've learned, right? Because maybe you have lied in the past and something bad happened.
It hurts people.
Right.
It hurts people. And you just don't want to live with that hurt. There's only a probability that it'll hurt people. By the way, if you don't get caught, hey. But it's not all about hey for me. It's hey for you. I count one, you count one. This is Mill's basic idea. So I want to say that we can develop those utilitarian ideas to form a kind of humanism that, by the way, is going to include animals. Jeremy Bentham was an early utilitarian, and Jeremy Bentham was one of the first to say, look, what counts, what makes you count as ethically is that you can suffer, right? Mm-hmm. Animals can suffer, so they count. Don't eat them. I accept that too. I'm a vegetarian. All right. So we can quibble about this.
That's the best argument for vegetarianism I've ever heard.
Isn't it nice?
I was just like, it just made so much sense to me.
It's really simple. So we can quibble. We can develop those things. That's the naturalistic framework. The other one I want to contrast it with is another egg. All right. I'll just tell you what's in the egg. But let's start with the E, the epistemology in the egg.
It says, follow the source.
Follow the source. Look, and I'm calling this view fundamentalism. That might not exactly map on one-to-one with what the normal term fundamentalism that we use, but I think it's pretty close. Look, Dan, what makes a fundamentalist is that there's some source, some book, some person, some, idea of their own intuition, or something that is authoritative and to which there is no second.
You cannot question.
Cannot question. Okay? So Christianity takes the Bible, or maybe Catholics the Pope, or something. Right? There's some source that is authoritative that you cannot question beyond. All right? If the Pope tells you as a Catholic, you can't do that.
Can't wear condoms,
you
can't do it.
Can I go to can I appeal? No.
Right.
There's no appeal. So the idea of fundamentalism, and it cuts across religion, I want you to see this is not just Christianity, is that whatever this source is, maybe it was an oracle. Remember Socrates went to the oracle at Delphi, the old woman that would come out of the cave, and now we know she was totally gassed from the gases coming up out of the cave.
Really?
She was stoned out of her mind. Naturalistic theory, right? Right? And you would go to her and go, what should I do? And she'd tell you, and you'd go do it, and it'd work out.
Just like Neo in the Matrix.
Exactly. But there was a source. There was an oracle. There's something that you can't think beyond. Now, I think that's what makes a fundamentalist. Whether they're Christian, whether they're Muslim. If you interpret Islam as saying, blow up the buildings. If it says blow up the buildings,
then you do it.
You do it. right? That's the right answer.
If it says no abortion, you go out there and
do it.
protest.
Absolutely. If it says it's murder,
But-
so
You're saying you're saying fundamentalism does not have to be extremism.
doesn't have to be. It could tell you be a good guy. You could read the Bible and go, that's pretty nice.
Right.
Jesus, oh great. Wow.
Because you're taking the authoritative context of something else and applying it directly to you, and you're not questioning.
You're not questioning.
Okay, I got you.
But where that typically leads with most religious views, and these are usually religious fundamentalist views, is what you get is there's a God. Read the book, Dan.
I've read it.
About God.
I've read it.
Right? There's free will. There's a soul. We can quibble about some of these. The Calvinists wouldn't include free will there, but okay. Most of them have a soul, a spirit, angels, demons, that kind of stuff. Metaphysical stuff. You don't go into physics class and learn about angels, right? It's beyond physics. It's metaphysical issues. So their metaphysics is composed of what the source tells them, and the source typically says there's a certain kind of God, blah 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 blah. Right? Now, your value theory is do whatever the book says.
Simple enough.
Do it, right? So I want to contrast these two views. The naturalist.
I would look at that and go, not thinking, thinking.
Right, because and there's one reason for that, Dan. We believe in following reason.
Yes.
And I also want to say, anytime you say reason gets me from I get from reason to know God, I want to go, man, I'm going to question your premises rigorously, and you're going to have to go there with me, right? In other words, I can't just say it's reason. It can't just be faith. I have faith in reason. No, man, I demand proof. I demand reasons for the reasons. I demand that you understand how reason works. Okay.
I like it. Okay.
All right. Now, is that your only two choices, Dan? Absolutely not.
This is a combo, I'm guessing.
Here's your third choice. Look. You say
Yep,
you find yourself being a Christian and you go, oh man, really? I have to, if it tells me to blow up buildings, I have to blow up buildings? I mean, gosh, even if it tells me I have to love Dan, right? And I don't, maybe I find myself not liking him, but the book says I have to do it. Gosh, really, I have to just do it? And not all Christians live that way. So I want to say there is a
I would say most Christians live this third way,
Yes,
which is
third
sort of
one.
a hunt
Yeah.
and peck, pick and choose, right?
Yes. I haven't got a nice name for it. I call it to my students the in-betweeners.
Okay.
This is the have your cake and eat it too theory, right? Oh, come on. You can be an intelligent Christian, and you can have your belief in God. You can have your faith, and you can take medicine too.
Yeah,
You
right.
can believe in evolution. How many times do people call in? How many times do we hear people say, look, you can be a Christian, they're incompatible. All
The
right.
Pope says that evolution is compatible with Christianity
Absolutely.
now, which is...
How? In other words, I owe you an explanation for how following reason. I owe it to you. I can't just say, my view is better than yours, and so I say it's right. I have to give you the arguments, right? Now, here, I leave these open, because there are different ways of working out this in-betweenism. And let me tell you a famous one. Stephen Jay Gould, the biologist at Harvard, he published a paper before he died, many years before he died, and I got to talk to him about it, called NOMA.
Noma is one of my favorite things, yes.
Isn't it?
I mean, it's
Do you
just...
see how NOMA is an in-between
Yes.
view? Because it's a bifurcation. And Stephen Jay Gould says, he loves to quote this, to give this little quote, which is not his, but science tells us the ages of rocks, and religion tells us about the rock of ages, right? So listen, there's two, this is Stephen Jay Gould, who, by the way, was an agnostic.
Yeah.
All right? So Stephen Jay Gould says, look, there's really just two kinds of things we know about. One is the scientific things, let me go off and do my work and leave me alone, and I'll come up with evolution and everything. And religion, he said, properly understood, isn't about those things. It's not about the age of the earth. It's about the rock of ages. It's about meaning, values, and stuff like that.
Right.
All right.
I kind of understand the NOMA thing is like, hey, science is going to do science.
Yeah.
Y'all play over there with your stupid religious stuff, right?
And Stephen Jay Gould would even say, and you can come to knowledge.
But
and
wasn't it just sort of a way to not It's just kind of get religion separate from science? Like that was his
yeah,
plan?
leave us alone.
Leave us alone. Like we're doing the real stuff.
I guess so. He couldn't have really believed it because he's an agnostic. So I think there are deeper motivations going on there. I think you're absolutely right, Dan. But many people took it seriously, and many people take it seriously and says, look, okay, there's two kinds of knowledge. And knowledge about meaning and values, the God stuff, is very different from meaning about rocks and trees and salamanders, right? Very, very different. And so if we bifurcate knowledge, if there really is these two kinds of knowledge, then we can see that you can, in a sense, have your cake and eat it too.
Gotcha.
All right? But what I want to say to you, Dan, there's a million ways of working this out. There's a million ways of saying what it is. And so I would just look at, I'm a proponent of the one epistemology theory. I think Gould is just wrong. I really don't think there really is two ways of knowing. There might be ways that, given the ways our different brains are structured, that I should teach you differently, because you're more visual than auditory or something. So there might be little things about education like that. But I really don't think there are two ways of knowing. No, it's one. When we study reason, when we follow reason, and we try to figure out what it is, we find out that that there's just one of them. There's just one. So I want to say what we found out is that. Here's the question about these in-betweener views. Can you have enough can you get a full-blooded God? Oh, here's another way of being an in-between view. Oh, that Adam and Eve stuff?
That's fair.
I don't take it literally. I don't take it literally. I'm going to go non-literal. I don't really have to believe it, because that'd be freaking crazy, right?
All right? Crazy.
So I can go non-literal on those things. I don't have to be a literalist anymore. A fundamentalist would probably find, being literalist, right? An in-betweener could just go non-literal.
We have a phone call. You're on Freethought Forum with Dan and Brad. May I ask who's calling?
Well, hey, this is Forrest. I've been watching the show.
Hi, Forrest. Thanks for calling.
And I felt I had to call in and disagree with you.
With me or Brad?
With the assertion that evolution is compatible with science.
Oh, I didn't make that assertion. Can I step in here?
Talk to them.
I didn't make that assertion. I said that people do. I don't believe that at all.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Yeah.
I missed that. Now, in fact, I guess I thought perhaps you were trying to say that was maybe an acceptable compromise.
No. Let me just give me 1 second here and see if this this meets your question. What I'm saying is, in this in-betweener framework, that's the kind of thing that people say. And they owe us an explanation of how they are compatible. Now, I think this is an inferior worldview. I'm a naturalist. I don't believe they're compatible, right?
And let me make the argument. They're not compatible for the very simple reason that there is no good reason to ever think a snake talked. And as trivial as that is, and as laughable as that is, once you throw out the talking snake, then you throw out the Adam and Eve story, and you throw out original sin, and there's no reason for Christ to be nailed to a cross. The whole myth falls apart on the talking snake.
Yeah, but now let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
You mean Jehovah's Advocate?
Jehovah's Advocate. That's what we say here.
Oh, is it? Okay. Let me be an advocate for something bad, and whatever you consider bad. I'm a naturalist about bad. But let me play Jehovah's Advocate here and say, look, but as an in-betweener, I'm taking on the guise of one. I'm not really one, but I think it makes a lot more sense than fundamentalism. There are a lot of more smarter people, have a lot more education that believe this view. All right, so let me just say, let me go non-literal about Adam and Eve. I don't believe, here I'm playing a Christian here. I don't believe there's an Adam and Eve. That was a non-literal story. Somebody like John Shelby Spong believes this. It was a non-literal story, and it has its purpose to serve some kind of moral purpose or something like that. I don't believe in talking snakes. Now, I'm taking it that once I say that, then I get around your objection. I'm sorry?
The Brad who's pretending to be a middle of the grounder, if you say that the Bible is meant to mean other than what it is literally, then you have to admit that it's doing a disservice to me, because no one has given me then the proper interpretation.
Absolutely. Tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
Forrest.
And
Forrest.
if it's doing a disservice to me, and Yahweh knows that that can happen. He's evil because he's setting me up to go burn me in his hell because I can't believe a preposterous story. So you, Mr. Middle of the Ground, you're advocating for an evil Yahweh.
Here's what I want to say to you, Forrest. Is that you and I are very much alike. We could have a great conversation, and there might be some points of disagreement. I'm not sure I accept every bit of it, but I'm in your ballpark. But I do want to say that I take this non-literalist option a lot more seriously than I think you do. It's wrong. I don't think there's any way of making any sense of this in-between view. Going non-literalist isn't, for reasons that you're presenting here, isn't going to be ultimately correct. But I do take it pretty seriously. There are some really smart people that hold these views, and I do probably spend more time than you do trying to make some sense of them.
Well, okay, I kind of picked on you because you were going to attempt to be Yahweh's advocate, and I know I would be uncomfortable forced into that role myself.
Yeah.
Hang up and hope some others.
Hey, I look forward to talking to you sometime more.
Bye then.
You're listening to Freethought Forum right here on Knoxville, ctvknox.org. That's our website if you want to watch on the internet. Give us a call, 865-215-2288. And we're going to go ahead and do our program break.
In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions.
Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Knoxville Community Access Television Channel 12 or Channel 194, depending on your local cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends to see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
Today's show is live on April 5th, and you can call in on the number on our screen and speak with us. While we take a short break, please watch these informative videos about our sponsors.
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
I'm winning the Arnold this year. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets once or 2 times a week. We have evening meetups for food, drink, and conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community camaraderie and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Our Tuesday meeting is going on right now at the Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Knoxville Old City. Recently, some of us went to see the new Star Wars movies.
Oh, I hate Star Wars, by the way.
We're going to have to kick them out.
It follows from everything about reason that Star Wars.
That's a movie!
Okay, the second Sunday of most months is the Rationalist of East Tennessee Skeptics Book Club. The title of this month's book is 10 Decisions I Could Have Made Better Than God and Other Audacious Atheist Articles by John Webster. You know, I just recently met John. I've been having some nice things on.
Yeah, he'll be at the meetup.
He's a good guy. Sunday, April 10th, 2 p.m. The public is invited to participate. You do not have to read the book to attend, but of course, it helps. Visit rationalist.org to find the rest of the calendar of books and join us at the new location, Books A Million, 8513 Kingston Pike, Knoxville, Tennessee.
I'm actually reading this book right now. I got it from John Webster. I'm about halfway through it. It's awesome. I'd suggest picking it up. You can get it on Amazon or talk to John himself. He sold me this one. They'll give you a discount too. And Star Wars. How would Star Wars go if it was real? It would just be like, Luke, use the Force. The Force isn't real. Ah! And then the rebels die. That'd be a real fast movie.
I saw the first one when it came out. I was a teenager, and I thought it was terrible then. And I saw a bit of a second one, which was worse, I will admit. And I've never seen anything else.
All right, don't believe anything this guy says.
Anyway.
So we were talking about some frameworks, and I wanted to get into the in-betweener framework. So we have people who kind of use reason as their epistemology, and people who kind of use fundamentalism as their epistemology. Am I getting this?
Yeah. So let me give the root of this middle worldview, this in-betweener worldview. Look, man, I don't have to check my brain at the door when I am a Christian. And that's the root of it. But that's just an idea. So how can I be an intelligent, thoughtful Christian? And I just want you to agree to one thing. Between the fundamentalists who are unacceptable and not playing the game that we're playing, right? But if you look at me and say, look, I think I can be an intelligent Christian, man, I'll talk to you. I want to know how you think you can work it out. And I'll present some problems and challenges, but by George, I'll also give you problems and challenges you can present to my naturalism. And this is what I tell my classes. If any of these views didn't stink, if any of them were perfect, I would hope it'd be mine, but it's not. Naturalism has all kinds of problems.
Tell me about a problem naturalism has. Because I'm definitely falling into that camp.
We don't know how to do it. Look, as great as it is to say that we're humanist, we really don't know completely how to work out a consistent ethical theory and explain how it could be a non-natural thing. A natural thing rather than a non-natural thing. We really don't have a complete account of mind that shows how it's completely naturalistic. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the better theories in psychology and cognitive science are naturalistic theories of mind. And they're eliminativist about soul. They just say, by the way, there wasn't such a thing, right?
Right.
Okay. So I am a naturalist, but we're still working that out, and we still got details to work out. We don't know how to give naturalistic accounts of meaning. Our best theories of linguistics are often non-natural. Our best theories of science are often involve some non-natural entities. Let me give you another type of non-natural entity. A supernatural one is one type, gods and supernatural entities. Other kinds of non-natural entities, souls, are non-natural. Here's another one. Universals. Universals. Like, if you're going to do mathematics, you have to talk about sets, and you have to talk about numbers, and you have to talk about these mathematical entities. And the reigning theory of those things until the mid to late 20th century was some kind of Platonism. And you still meet an awful lot of smart mathematicians who are Platonist about sets and numbers. That is, they take universals, such as sets and functions and numbers, to be somehow constitutive of reality, but I don't know how to give a naturalistic account of them.
Numbers have to work, otherwise the Earth everything wouldn't work. The numbers have to line up.
We can't account for how numbers work without saying they are in some way non-natural types of things. Now, in other words, I can point to one shirt, I can point to one thing on the desk, I can point to one pen, but what is one, right? Now, I don't mean to get all freaky and metaphysical on you, but when we get right down to it, there are questions about how mathematics could work in a naturalistic way. I think we have some really good theories, better than we ever have right now, about how mathematics could be completely naturalistic. But we've got to deal with the real fact, Dan, that the history of mathematics has not been naturalistic. And so a naturalistic view of numbers and sets and functions and universals is called nominalism.
Okay.
There's a famous book by a nominalist at Harvard some years ago when I was in graduate school, a guy named Hartree Field, called Science Without Numbers. And he said, look, we can be naturalists. We can do science without...
Science without numbers.
Yeah, science without numbers. But his point was we can be naturalist about these things. And the name of that view is nominalism. Now, I have no idea how to work that out. It's very, very difficult, Dan. I go with Quine, the philosopher Quine, who said, the best evidence that something exists This is Quine and Putnam. Hillary Putnam just died a week or two ago. Anyway, Quine and Putnam had this view that what it means to exist, our best evidence that something exists, is that you have to, they would say, quantify it over it in our best theory of that subject. What I mean by that, you have to talk about numbers to do math and science, right? That's the best evidence you could have that they exist. Why don't we believe as psychologists today that there are ids, egos, and superegos, like in Freud's theory? Yeah. Because the best theory of science doesn't include those things anymore. The best theory of psychology. Now, we could quibble about that. If you're a Freudian, you say, yes, it does. All right, we could have that argument. Fine, great argument to have.
You're saying an id or superego, it exists like in association with your person, not necessarily.
All it could really mean to say that there is an id or an ego is that that's a really freaking good theory of psychology, right, and better than all the others.
But we don't know.
And I just
prove it.
That's all the proof you could give for existence, right, of theoretical entities like that. And God's going to be a theoretical entity. So I want to do the same thing when I turn my atheist attention to God.
What do you say when people say that, well, you're just making the inverse claim of my God claim? You're saying, you're making a claim, right? You're saying no God exists. But what I'd hear from atheists is, we're not making a claim.
I don't go with that view, Dan, for reasons that I would love to get into. I don't go with that view. Those are called burden of proof arguments.
Yes.
Look, by George, you're making the claim there, and so the burden of proof is on you and not on me. I want to say, I'll take the burden of proof here. I think you're wrong, and I'll give you the arguments, right? I think the problem of evil, in some suitable form, is a really fine argument that supports atheism. I think there are considerations.
Because evil exists. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem of evil, that the evil is inconsistent. There being evil is inconsistent with there being a certain kind of God. I think those are very powerful arguments. I don't think the simple version of them work. But Dan, here's my claim that I, of course, don't have the time to back up in the last 8 minutes. But my claim is that I could, if we had enough time, I could show you that there are good reasons for tipping the scales to atheism.
Okay. Right? Give me one.
Well, the problem of evil,
So the religious person would say evil exists, thus God created us because he created good and evil. But you would say evil exists because humans exist, and humans have free will? Is that right? Wrong? Or greed exists?
Yeah, I want to say there's natural evil in the world. When I'm sorry to talk about horrible things, but a tornado comes through town and picks up a baby and does horrible things, horrible, disgusting things with it, right? And that's evil, But no human has any plausible responsibility for that.
Right.
So I want to say that yes, we can give a naturalistic theory of evil that's ultimately going to be better than a supernatural theory of evil. But I do think that if you believe there is evil in the world, that in some sense you can't have that and a belief in a certain kind of God too. I want to be a little fishy about the details here. If you ever want me back to talk about the minutia of this argument, man, we'll go at it.
Okay.
Because the problem of evil, see, Dawkins said something really interesting in our book, The God Delusion, which was up on the screen just a minute ago. Dawkins says, hey man, the problem of evil doesn't work. Get rid of it. It's not part of our atheist thing here. And I go, man, Dawkins, this is why people say you ain't a very good philosopher. Because I really would like to have that argument with Dawkins, although he would beat me because he's rhetorically, 100 miles better, but and more powerful. But he wouldn't beat me on the principles of reason. I think there's some suitable version of the problem of evil that tips the scales from agnosticism, which, by the way, is pretty easy to get anybody to rationally, right? You can take any of those arguments. So let's take those arguments: argument from design, ontological argument, cosmological argument, all those things.
Sure.
I could teach you I could teach my students in a month or so to pretty well reject any of those arguments and bring them to a tie. Tie's pretty easy.
You're talking about all the apologetics, like the Kalam cosmological argument. Things. Okay.
Yeah. So they make certain kinds of mistakes, and we can point out the mistakes, and they're real critical thinking mistakes, and so I could bring you to a tie easily using rationality. The question for atheism: is there anything that tips that scale from it being a cosmic tie between belief and non-belief to non-belief? And I say, yes, there is. There's the problem of evil and some things that I will get into with you at any time, but I wasn't prepared to talk about this today.
Sure. I did want to ask one thing, because you said you're a teacher, you're a professor, or
yeah,
or at least formally, and
yeah, sure.
You said you're out to your class.
I've always.
Tell me about that, because I'm a teacher and I am not out. I mean, as much as being on a public access television show wearing an atheist shirt cannot be out.
I typically teach at secular universities like the University of Tennessee, Ohio State, Florida State, that get their funding from the state and don't have any explicit religious ties. There are a couple of exceptions to that. So generally, when I'm at a secular school, students always come up to you about 2/3 of the way through the semester, and they're loving this stuff. Some of them, not all of them, they're loving this, and you're like, oh man. Tell us what you believe. So when I first started teaching, I wouldn't tell them. I would say, I want to keep out of this, I'll keep my own views out of this, and invariably the best students will come up to you and go, all right, man, you got to tell us, all right? You got to tell us.
I get that a lot too.
And so I used to say, all right, I will tell you because you're good students and you've come to me asking honestly, I want you to guess first. We did this once, and the students get together, and they're like, "Oh, we decided you're a theist," and I was like, "Yeah, man, isn't that what you want? That they think you're one thing and you're..." And so I said, "No, you got it wrong. I'm an atheist." And they said, "But you taught those arguments from Descartes like you really believe them." And I said, "No, I taught those arguments from Descartes like they're compelling, and you need to know them."
Right.
They are rationally compelling. Do they ultimately work? No. But I don't want to present them as silly, right? They're not silly. They were historically very motivating arguments. But recently I've come to be out in my secular classes. But I taught at Carson Newman recently.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Baptist affiliated college.
Yeah.
And
you came out there too.
I came out.
And how did the response go?
The response was fabulous, Dan.
Positive, right?
It was positive. I told them, look, what you're paying your money for here, when you get me, and when somebody comes out as an atheist at Carson Newman, right, what you get is the ability to respond. I'm not shutting you up like I never have shut you up in this class. Whatever you believe, and most of you are Christians, but by the way, Dan, I had atheists they're forming a free thinker society at Carson Newman.
That's awesome.
Isn't that fabulous?
That's great.
And they're working and they're reading and they're anyway. I said, you get a chance to write about this. I must have had 25 out of 30 students or so. I must have had 25 written responses, and they all said,
"We approve.
We approve."
They may not agree, but they're happy that you
absolutely. Yeah. And they said, and we thank you for telling us.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I've decided to live my life as out.
Man, that's
not
awesome.
all of us can do it because of our positions, you know. But I'm at a university for Jehovah's sake, and I just decided, man, this is about reason. It's not about proselytizing. Never about proselytizing. It's about presenting frameworks that do not color the issue, so that students can understand and make up their own mind. I don't proselytize. I plant seeds, because the seeds are philosophically part of the conversation. I can't teach philosophy without teaching naturalist theories of mind, or naturalist theories of free will and determinism, naturalist theories of ethics. I can't teach philosophy without presenting those options. And then, by the way, I may say at some point, and by the way, that's my option. But I'm going to leave you, Dan, as my student. If you were my student, I'm going to leave you with saying, this is mine, but I'm not only going to present the problems with the other ones, you're going to know the problems with my view. Huh. We don't know how to work out a completely consistent naturalism. It's a great idea. It's working. What Darwin did, in my view, and this isn't original with me, what Darwin did was naturalized biology. Hey, man, I can show you why the natural stuff can explain all of this wonderful stuff that happens. Powerful idea. Some people say the most powerful idea ever. It was certainly one of the tops. But he gave a naturalistic. If we give a naturalistic explanation of more and more and more, we win. But Dan, we don't know how to do it, and that's a problem.
Well, we're going to have you back to explain it, because we can't have that problem. But this has been a wonderful show. I've learned a heck of a lot, and thank you, Brad, for coming on the show. This is the Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets once or twice a week. We have wait, this is the wrong part. Oh.
Do I have to?
Wrong page.
Closing.
It's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm No Longer Catholic Dan, and this is Brad. Please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. You can see.
Faith nuns who are identified with no religion are the fastest growing religious group in America. Right here in East Tennessee, the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee are places you can find fellowship and fun. Right now, come to Barley's.
You are not alone.